Good evening, I'm Prarambha Dahal. Let's begin with the main stories. Gati Hill Bazaar of Lalitpur turned barren by floods and landslides. Local residents seeking the presence of the state. Local level unable to address the challenges. Decision to issue directives and announce compensations for disaster crisis zones inadequate. Experts suggest prioritizing relief and resettlement. 1.5 billion collected in disaster relief fund. Indian security forces recover some of the bodies of 31 suspected Maoist rebels following a gun battle in the central state of Chhattisgarh. The rebels have waged a guerrilla-style offensive in eastern and central India for past decades. And unbeaten Karnali lead the Everest Women's Volleyball League title, defeat Lalitpur in a 5-set thriller in the tournament final. Places of historic, trade and tourism significance of Gati Hill, located at southern Lalitpur, have been deserted by last week's floods and landslides. Gati Hill at Mahankal Rural Municipality, Ward number 3 of Lalitpur, is located at a distance of around 45 kilometers from the federal capital, Kathmandu. Despite being so close to the federal capital of the country, the state does not seem to be aware of the damages suffered from last week's floods and landslides caused by incessant rainfall. While the physical infrastructures have been severely damaged, Gati Hill has also been disconnected with electricity and communication networks. With roads damaged by water-induced disasters, transport has been obstructed. Despite the lapse of 1 week since the disaster, the local residents of Gati Hill are still awaiting the response from the state. However, the presence of the federal and provincial governments is yet to be felt by those bearing the brunt of the disasters. Now, the government has declared 42 local levels that were hardest hit by last week's monsoon havoc as disaster crisis zones, with the objective of expediting rehabilitation, recovery and reconstruction efforts there. 42 local levels were severely affected by the floods, landslides and inundation of the 26th and 27th of September. While at least 239 have died, 18 are still missing. In addition to the loss of human lives, massive losses were also suffered in terms of agriculture, energy, irrigation, electricity and communication infrastructures, with the government assessment figuring around 17 billion rupees in damages. The government has declared the 42 local levels as disaster crisis zones for the period of 3 months. The Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act 2017 has provisioned the declaration of disaster crisis zones. Based on the Act, the period could be extended if the situation caused by the disaster could not be brought under control during the initial time frame. Within the period, the government can close government and non-government offices, academic institutions and other organizations for a certain period of time. Activities of such sectors creating complications for rescue are not allowed during the period. Employees of the government and non-government organizations, academic institutions and other organizations can also be deployed during the disaster crisis period. The government also prioritizes rescue and relief of the victims during the period, while also prioritizing reconstruction and resettlement efforts. In spite of the government declaration of disaster crisis zones, experts have said that announcement is not enough and have stressed on the need to prioritize immediate actions by deploying required resources. Even after the lapse of 1 week of the disaster, major highways are still obstructed. Public are finding it difficult to travel during major festivities. Victims who have lost their houses to floods and landslides are compelled to live under the open sky. In such a situation, it remains to be seen how the government performs for rescue, relief, resettlement and reconstruction. A total of 1,594,100,000 rupees has been collected in the Prime Minister Natural Disaster Relief Fund so far. According to spokesperson at the Office of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, Prem Prasad Audyal, a total of 1,594,100,000 rupees has been deposited at the Prime Minister Disaster Relief Fund for the rescue, relief, reconstruction and management for the families hit hard by floods, landslides and inundations of September 26 and 27. The amount collected in the fund is to be released to the District Disaster Management Fund through the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Authority under the Ministry of Home Affairs. For the fund to be released, a decision has to be taken by the Council of Ministers. As the Prime Minister Disaster Relief Fund is not recognized by the law, the amount will be distributed to the affected families through the Central Disaster Management Fund under the authority. Amount collected in the fund cannot be used for reconstruction. It needs to be used for immediate relief for the families of those killed and for construction of temporary shelters for the victims. Based on the existing provisions, reconstruction of damaged houses will be funded separately by the Ministry of Finance. In our Public Voice segment, we have asked what are the immediate steps the government must take at the disaster-hit areas. Let us now take a look at what they had to say.
के कति क्षति भएको छ त्यसलाई पुनर्निर्माण गर्नु पर्यो पुनर्स्थापना गर्नु पर्यो
विपद परेका व्यक्तिहरूलाई पहिला सुरक्षित स्थानमा लगेर उनीहरूलाई बसोबासको घाँसबास कपासको व्यवस्था गर्नु पर्यो
सरकारले तत्काल अस्थायी बसोबासको प्रबन्ध व्यवस्थापन तुरुन्तै मिलाउनु पर्छ
जोखिम स्तरबाट चाहिँ त्यो बस्तीहरूलाई हटाउनु पर्यो सुरक्षित स्थानमा लगेर राख्नु पर्यो
सरकारले एक दर प्रणाली अपनाएर राहतको वितरण गर्नुपर्छ
खाद्यान्न सामग्रीहरू उपलब्ध गराउनु पर्यो तत्काल
अवसर छपाई हुन्छ त्यसले गर्दाखेरि मूल्यमा नियन्त्रण गर्नु पर्यो
जसको घर छैन घर बनाइदिनु पर्यो जसको खानेकुरा छैन अलिअलि खानेकुरा व्यवस्थापन गरिदिनु पर्यो राज्यको पहिलो प्राथमिकता थियो त्यसपछि बाटो तत्काल बनाउनु पर्यो
पानीको एकदम समस्या देखिएको छ त्यसले गर्दा पानीलाई चाहिँ मूल प्राथमिकता दिएर चाहिँ काम गर्नुपर्छ
जो विपदमा परेकाहरू छन् तिनीहरूको दशैंलाई उल्लासमय बनाउनको लागि राहतका कार्यक्रमहरू ल्याइदिनु
It is now time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Before we ask today's question, let us take a look at the result from yesterday's poll. Yesterday we asked, despite being near to the federal capital, the local residents of southern Lalitpur are still awaiting rescue and relief. What is your opinion? 60% were for A, irresponsible government, 15% were for B, indifferent public representatives, and 25% were for C, need for collaboration. And here is our today's question. What do you term the government failure in collecting data about the losses caused by floods and inundations in agricultural production? Your options are A, delay from officials, B, farmers not in the priority, and C, collect data and provide relief. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. It is now time for a short break, but for more news, to stay with us. It is now time for the international news. Indian security forces recovered some of the bodies of 31 suspected Maoist rebels today following a gun battle in the central state of Chhattisgarh. Police were conducting a search in the areas bordering the Narayanpur and Dantewada districts when fighting between officers and the suspected rebels broke out. The rebels subscribed to a form of communism propagated by late Chinese leader Mao Zedong and have waged a guerrilla-style offensive against the government, especially in central and eastern India for decades, leading to periodic clashes and casualties on both the sides. The police gave no details on whether there had been any casualties among its ranks in this incident.
Sports news.
Karnali remained unbeaten to win the first edition of the Everest Women's Volleyball League. In the final of the tournament, played at the covered hall of the National Sports Council in Tripurashar, Karnali secured a 3-2 win in a 5-set thriller against Lalitpur. Karnali had won the first two sets 25-17 and 25-20 and were at a comfortable situation. However, despite winning the first two sets, they lost their momentum in the third set, which saw a strong comeback from Lalitpur as they won the next two sets 25-12 and 25-18. The decisive fifth set was very competitive and Lalitpur were leading 8-6 at one point of time. Karnali found their rhythm back and leveled the set at 11-all before winning at 15-13. The win also meant that Karnali lifted the title as the unbeaten team. Champions Karnali had inexperienced Nepali spikers but still finished as the winners. They had beaten Lalitpur even in the group stage of the tournament. So that is all for the moment. Up next is the news in Nepali. Thank you for staying with us. Goodbye for now.